Good morning and happy Friday. Welcome back to the Daily Grind. I'm your host, Chump Changes, live and recorded. For anybody that might be new here, what we typically do is go over crypto news or news in general in the space. I update myself, bring you guys along for the ride. Let's see who's here in the chat, and then we'll get into this. We have Mr. Max Voltage in the house. Good morning, sir. Come on, BTC. Let me see. Down to 65k. Oh, you want it to go to 65k. I was like, get out of here. It is not there yet. Dumpster Fire, what's up, man? Sustainable Crypto, good to see you. We have Black Hat Team, Nismo Miner, Son of a Rabbit, good morning. All set. Lawnmower Man, Shark Farmer, Chris Hanley, appreciate you guys. You're all awesome. Financial Fairy, what's up, dude? Mine and fill my bags. What's up, buddy? John Germain, Tim I Am Crypto, everybody else I may have missed, I apologize, but let's get into it. Bitcoin, 67,458 bucks. Ethereum got the ETF approval yesterday, but it does not mean it is available to trade yet. It is probably not going to be available to trade until like mid next month, but we'll have to see, I guess, what happens. Ethereum 3716 looks pretty good. Solana 167 bucks. I wonder what we're going to see for the next ETF. What do you guys think? What do you think? Solana, maybe? I guess we'll have to see. We have XRP at 52 cents. Excuse me, my kid just came down here. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry, getting bombarded first thing. All right, let's see. Dogecoin 16 cents. We get ETC at $31. Caspa at 13 cents, taking a little bit of a hit today, down 7.63%. LTC is at 85 bucks, down 1%. We have Arbitrum to $1.15. Link is at $17, up 5.67%. Look at that, it's actually $17.59. Looking pretty good. Oh god, the kid's mad at me for telling her to go upstairs. Damn it. Solana ETF next. I think so too, to be honest. It's gonna be within the top 10. I'd be shocked if they didn't come up with like a collective top 10 ETF. That's just my opinion, but I don't know, I think it could get interesting. All right, moving on to crypto bubbles. Let's see. On the day, looks like Ondo's the biggest earner, up 18.5%, $1.15. Interesting. $1.15. We have ETC over here down 7.2%, $31.54. Let's see. OP is down 10%. This is Optimism, $2.54. We got Bonk down 10.2%. That's there you go. That's oof. Again, 7.9 down on Caspa. We got Shiba down 5.6%. We have Jupiter down 5.6% to $1.12. Is that a good buy, actually? Jupiter? I wonder. What do you guys think about Jupiter? Anybody? WIF is down 4.9%. We got Gala down 5.3%. Arbitrum again down 7.7 at $1.16. H-bar is down 5.2 if anybody cares, 10 cents. I feel like H-bar has been kind of floating around 10 cents for a while. Even with that FUD, it like jumped up and then just right back down to right where it was. ADA is down 5%. It's to 46 cents. I still think ADA is a sleeping giant. You guys let me know what you think about that. We have BitTensor over here, $429, down 8.8%. All right, flashbang. Let's see what we got for the Fear and Greed Index. We're looking like a 74. This is good. This is good. We need it to be under 75 for it to be stable, I would say, right? Stable is, for me, under 75. When it gets over 75, things get hairy, and you know, you kind of want to pull out a little bit. And I mean, you guys can see people were pulling out a little bit yesterday. Again, Ethereum was at right before the approval, $3,800, almost $3,900, and BTC was up over 70k, or at 70k ish, right? So seeing a little pullback on the Fear and Greed Index, it's kind of nice. And there really hasn't been a bunch of news out yet about the ETF. There's only a little bit, but I guess we'll have to see what happens. All right, over here, let me just refresh this. Trending coins, we have Gearbox, whatever that is, down 10.3%. Apu is down 13.2%, and Turbo is up 49.1%. I'm assuming it's a meme coin. Interesting. All right, top 10 coins by coin market cap over on CoinGecko. We have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, BNB, Solana, Lido Staked Ether, USDC, XRP, Dogecoin, and Toncoin in 10th place at a $21 billion market cap. Cardano is in 11th place. Again, I still think it's a sleeping giant. You guys, I don't know. I don't know. I stopped DCAing into it, but I got some. I have a bag, so I'm happy with it. Let's see. Again, if you go to the max chart, you see the run up 2017, 2021, 2024 is going to be insane. I don't know. I think it's going to be towards the end of the year. We're going to see a nice lift off just in general in like every coin, right? But I think Cardano has an easy 6x in it, just my opinion. I actually, you know what? I asked ChatGPT this morning a question that I was watching Mr. Hot Crypto Mining last night, and he asked what the total market cap of all of the ERC20 tokens were, and I believe it got to, I think it's about $700 billion for the entire network, if I'm not mistaken. So I wonder what's going to happen with this ETF, how crazy things are going to get. There's a lot of coins on Ethereum, a lot, and it doesn't mean that all the coins built on it aren't securities, so you guys got to understand that too, right? It's just an approval for Ethereum as of now, and I guess we're gonna have to see with everything else, because like it includes Shiba and all these other coins, right? So let's see. I would much rather have an ADA ETF than an ETH ETF. Really, Chris Nichols? Well, all right, so like, yeah, I get it, right? I get it. I know people are bitter about Ethereum, but guys, listen, it's got a $446 billion market cap. It's the second largest crypto, and it's very important to the entire ecosystem. So it was kind of inevitable. Like Ethereum is one of those coins, it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of funny though to see Gary tuck his tail between his legs and have to approve something because they definitely lost. Alvidas, you're not wrong. Litecoin, 85 bucks. I think Litecoin's a good buy too, in my opinion. Probably an easy 3x. ETC, I think it's going to be an easy 3 or 4x as well. It's only at 31 bucks, pretty good right now. Render, $10. Render's going to do well, I think. I don't know how well, but I think Render's going to do well this run. I can't wait to see. I have a little bag of it. Caspa, I think, has a good chance to have a nice run up as well, but I think what is it? What are the stable coins? God, why can't I think? What are the stable coins called? Is it KRC? Is that what it is? I'm drawing a huge blank. I think it's KRC tokens, right? They're going to be released next month, or that whole platform is going to be released next month, as far as I know. So I think Caspa's going to be doing pretty good. Looking at the max chart, you can see it kind of broke out of the flag, so we're just working on building up for the next run up. I assume we're gonna have to see what happens here, but things could go stagnant. Who knows? Caspa stable. Yeah, Caspa stable coins. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, let's move on to the mining segment of things. Over here, you guys know I like to timestamp this stuff. This is over on Mine the A6. See what the most profitable miner is on the day. So we have the KS5 Pro 21 terahash unit, $83.96 a day. We get the KS5 20 terahash unit making $79.96. The KS5L 12 terahash unit making $44.14 a day. And you know what? Someone last night also was talking in the chat in Hawk's stream. They were saying that Caspa's probably not going to have a giant run up until these miners become more unprofitable, right? Where they can then create more miners for another hype cycle, which is kind of what I was gathering what the person was trying to say. And they might not be wrong. I don't think it's going to be like these are going to run down to like nothing, right? I mean, they're going to eventually, but I don't think it's going to take that long for Caspa to pump. But the next miner that comes out will be the catalyst to pushing this thing, I think, up another leg. Does that make sense? I think that's going to be yeah, I think that needs to happen, to be honest. So I think we probably have a little bit more, and I guess we'll have to see with the KRC 20 tokens, but whatever. All right, IB Link BMKS Max over here, we have $37.60. We have the Windminer K9 10.3 terahash unit making $36.97. The AL box down here in 7th place. Oh god, Lithium is getting hammered lately. 360 gigahashes, 180 watts, making $30.92 a day. Let's see what Lithium's looking like. Man, Lithium's getting friggin' hammered. 172, $1.72. Man, it's a good thing they didn't come out with another miner. If they came out with another miner, man, this whole coin would just be in the dumps right now. I mean, it kind of is, but imagine a Caspa ETF next year. Yeah, right. I doubt it. It's not even on a tier 1 exchange yet. I doubt it. This wishful thinking. It would be nice, but I doubt it. Let's see. All right, moving on. KS3 Ice River 8 terahash unit making 27 bucks a day. We get the KS3M making $18 a day basically. The DG1 Alpha Packs unit over here making $16.32 a day. This is merge mining Litecoin and Doge. 11 gigahash unit. Interesting. I have the 9050 version L7 down in Terra Hosting. Shout out to them, paying 9.5 cents per kilowatt hour. We got $12.35 a day. Again, most of the rewards, like 85% of them, are actually in Dogecoin. So I think Dogecoin is going to do well in the next run up. Again, Dogecoin's been in the top 10 for like ever, right? It's in 9th place right now. $23 billion market cap. Dumb money is going to pump this for sure when this bull market comes. For sure. Let's see. All right, Gold Shell KA box. Anybody have one of these actually? Does Panda have one of these? I think he does, right? 1.18 terahashes. $4.18 a day. This is 400 watts. That's pretty good actually. The KS1 1 terahash unit, 600 watts, making $2.93 a day. That's pretty terrible actually. Where's the X16 right here? X16Q. All right, we get the 1950 mega hashes, almost 2 giga hashes, right? 620 watts, mining ETC and ZIL, making $5.03 a day. This unit I actually have running right here next to me, and this thing is killing it. This is like one of the most profitable home miners for sure. It's so easy to run this thing, and it's quiet. Run it off 120, you don't have to worry about having 240. It's just nice. KS0 Pro 200 giga hash unit making 63 cents a day. Panda needs a real phone. Oh yeah. Yeah, I saw our stream yesterday. Still trolling him on that. All right, let's check out my S19K. Where are we? Bruh. We're down here. S19K. 34 cents negative a day. Payback time is never. Oh man, terrible. I was in the green for like half a second. I was making a couple pennies a day. All right, moving on. GPUs. Let's see what we got. GPUs 4090. We got Ironfish and Whosat again over here. Yeah, I guess dual mining that. We have Ironfish and the 170HX. The 4080 is Cortex and Ironfish and Whosat as well. All right, looks like Ironfish pretty much taking the cake over here. What's Ironfish at right now? Ironfish just isn't a coin for me, man. It's not. It is just like, just look at the chart. Like, this shit listed at $150. I know it only shows $8 here, but it listed at $150, and it completely ate it. I can't support a coin like that personally. But hey, listen, if you can mine it, make money, absolutely do it, and just get out of it. It's my opinion. We have Ravencoin 6800 XT and Chlor. We have Eternity on the 3070 and Ironfish and Whosat. Let's see, Conflux and Radiant on the A5000 and the 3080 as well. The 3070 Ti laptop, please don't mind on your laptops, but Xano seems to be the best over there. The Radeon 7, Ravencoin and Chlor, Cortex and the A4000. Interesting, I got one of them. 6900 XT, Ravencoin, Chlor. Nice. So I mean, most of it's Ironfish. Most of it. Dynex. Look at this. Dynex on a 3090 Ti. Haven't seen Dynex in a while. What the hell's Dynex looking like? 47 cents. Jeez, man, this thing in a friggin' shit too. What's going on here? Man, what is going on with Dynex? Dynex is falling off a cliff. How come? Weird. Dynex FUD, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Weird. I wish they had a good wallet. I don't know. The core wallet's okay, but I just hate core wallets, to be honest. All right, mining pool stats.stream. Let's see what we got over here. New coins. Pugdag. Was this here yesterday? I feel like it was. Carlson hash. Yeah, I think we looked at this yesterday, didn't we? Another meme coin. Yeah, I went into the website actually. Meme coin over here on Carlson hash. Apparently it's a fork. I don't know, man. But you guys, listen, right? The the Carlson and Caspa forks and all this shit, we're gonna just continue to see them. It's kind of like ERC20, right? When Ethereum was mineable, everything was forked off Ethereum. Like, there was so many new coins. It was literally one coming out like every day, right? A lot of them we still actually mine, but yeah, I don't know. You're gonna see the same stuff with Caspa. It's not really shocking to me, to be honest. All right. Oh, look at this. I totally forgot. Ethereum Classics Fifthening is actually in 6 days. 6 days. I wonder if we're going to see nice appreciation here. We're going from 2.56 block reward to a 2.048. That's kind of a big deal. Ethereum Classic is again, I think it's a sleeping giant. It is the original main chain of Ethereum. When they had a disagreement, they forked, and this coin I think is going to pump just solely on the Ethereum Etf news. When people get into crypto and see this one's cheaper than the actual Ethereum, you know, they'll just buy it on Coinbase. That's what I did. Kyla coin going through a hard fork algo change in 8 days. New proof of work mining algorithm flex. I don't know anything about it, but interesting. Let me know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Let's see. Cybermoss, appreciate you. Hey, you hit that like button. Appreciate you. 100 likes. That'd be great. Be amazing. Love you all. All right, let's move on to the news and just kind of rip through some Cointelegraph stuff real quick. We have over here, so the SEC ETF decision means ETH and a lot of other tokens are not securities, right? This doesn't mean the securities regulators can't still pursue action against actors in the staking domain. Industry analysis and lawyers warn. So yeah, that's another thing we gotta pay attention to, right? Like, this doesn't mean like everything's out of the woods. This just means that Ethereum is clearly not a security. Most of the tokens are probably not, but the staking stuff, if you're a staked coin, like, how are you not a security? To be honest, it's kind of like point blank, you know? So whatever. Ethereum ETFs launch next month, certainly possible. So again, this is we were approved yesterday, but we haven't started trading yet. So that's probably why the market hasn't really gotten the word. Like, you know, nobody got in the market's ear and said, hey, by the way, this is approved. The price probably shouldn't be going down. But nonetheless, yeah, right here, this is James Sheffart, if that's how you say that, said, to be clear, this doesn't mean they will they will begin trading tomorrow. This is just a 19B-4 approval. Also needs to be an approval on the S1 documents, which is going to take time. We're expecting it to take a couple weeks, but it could take longer. Should know more within a week or so. So just keep in mind this right here, hold on, going to add, typically this process takes like up to 5 months. What? 5 months? You imagine if you get the approval and it takes 5 months to become trading? Get the out of here. Oh, that'd be crazy. But so I don't know, we're gonna have to see what happens there, right? It's just one of those things, man. Just hurry up and wait. It's pretty much all we can do. All right, let's move on to some CNBC television stuff, talking about inflation. Let's see what they got to say over here, guys. That like button, appreciate you for hanging out. Let's do it.
For some insights on the Fed's inflation fight and the impact on rates, I want to bring in Priya Misraj, is the fixed income portfolio manager at JP Morgan Asset Management. Good morning to you.
Morning.
It is the front page of the FT this morning. Yellen says many Americans still struggling with inflation. Fed officials were open to further U.S. rate rises to quell inflation.
We'll get into the Ethereum ETF news in a few minutes. I'm just going to run upstairs and take care of my kid for a second, so I'll be right back.
Is there any way this is actually going to get better?
So I think it is getting better. It's getting better slowly. So when I look at the inflation numbers, clearly it declined very fast at the end of last year. That progress stalled in the first quarter. But we feel very strongly you shouldn't extrapolate from that, because if you see the last inflation report, that did slow down. We're back to monthly numbers around 0.3, so better than the 0.4 that we were seeing in the first quarter. The other thing I would highlight is if you look at how concentrated that inflation number is, of the 3.6% that we're seeing in core CPI, 3.3% of that is really coming from shelter and auto insurance. Now, we have to live somewhere and we have to drive a car. So I get that these are very important components, but they are lagging components. The fact that home prices have stalled when we look at the high frequency measures of rents, they're actually slowing down. That's going to feed through into shelter inflation. It's happening slowly. I think the Fed is trying to be patient. They have to say that if inflation starts to reaccelerate, they'll absolutely hike. I think the market got a little too nervous around the minutes. Since the minutes, after that meeting, we've actually had a payroll report that's suggesting some growth moderation. We've had an inflation number that's showing it. I think the market is getting nervous around Fed rate cuts. It's going to happen. We think by the end of the year, they'll be on to cutting rates because they're going to look at that cumulative progress.
Two things going on. You have your boss, Jamie Dimon, on one side, who I don't think thinks it's coming down so quick. You can tell me otherwise, but we've seen some of the commentary that he's made even on our air just in this last week again. And then you have firms like Morgan Stanley, which thinks like the whole thing is going to roll over by the end of the year in like the fastest, quickest, crazy way you've ever seen. So who's right?
So I think the market's very much in the soft landing.
Your boss or not? Right.
Well,
Yeah, your boss or Morgan Stanley, exactly.
When Jamie thinks about all the outlook, the entire distribution of outcomes, he has to look at the outcome where if inflation doesn't slow down, what's going to happen? At that point, the Fed doesn't cut rates. I think the entire soft landing is predicated on the Fed starting to ease off. It all comes down to, is monetary policy restrictive? And I think this is where we looked at the Fed minutes. The Fed's debating it. The market's debating it.
I think it's much more likely that it is not restrictive yet. They're kind of rethinking what they've been saying.
So they're debating it. I think the tricky part is it is very restrictive for some parts of the economy. It is not restrictive for some other parts.
And I think this is part of the problem. There was a really good piece by Ben Emmons last night kind of laying this out, saying what we saw yesterday was a microcosm of what the Fed is dealing with, where you had Nvidia shares that were so strong, talking about how they're not going to be able to meet demand, how there's so much money that's being flooded into this, technology money being spent in AI. And the Fed minutes kind of reflected that to some extent, too. They started pointing through and saying, look, there are areas where there's a whole lot of demand and a whole lot of money that's being spent. So they can't cut rates right now because you're going to see inflation that's continued to push higher, not just by spending by big tech companies, but also government spending, too. But then you have the areas where if they don't get lower rates, they're in big trouble, whether that be commercial real estate and beyond, maybe some of the other banks, the regional banks that have gotten into that trouble. And so the Fed is dealing with this tale of two cities. Which side do you pay more attention to?
Right. I would say when they're look at the starting point. If we're at 5.5 on the funds rate, or the 10-year at 4.5, you can argue that you can start to take the foot off the pedal a little bit. We may end up at a much higher rate. I don't know if you're getting back to what the Fed says, 2.5. Maybe that neutral rate is 3.5. The market's pricing in 4%. I think that's the point. They can start to ease off because there are cracks. They don't want those cracks to become recession.
All right, let's move on. Talking about a little bit more into the Nvidia stuff. Nvidia's growth story will continue. And sorry about having to take off for a second, so I missed a lot of that. And no, the solar stuff did not arrive yet, unfortunately. It's actually, I'm getting some of it today. I think 3 of the batteries are coming today. Those batteries are over 100 pounds a piece, by the way. The pallet, I guess it's coming on a pallet. There's 3 batteries coming, and it's like 365 pounds. So I'm supposed to receive those today, but the rest of the solar stuff hasn't shipped yet. So I'm like bumming about that, but is what it is. All right, let's get into this Nvidia news over here.
Let's get more on the names that can benefit from Nvidia's rally. Let's go to Gene Munster of Deepwater Asset Management. Gene, good to see you. We want to go outside the obvious. So how are you thinking of sort of the next layer of trades out?
So it starts with a little bit of a different view on what happened last night. I think that Nvidia's results underscore that this is happening much faster than anyone could have imagined. And it really, to put that in perspective, is that in the April 2023 quarter, Nvidia's business was down 13% year over year. This last quarter was up 260%. And the speed that things are happening is really underscores the seismic shift of this transition to AI. In the midst of what we've talked about with AI for the last year and a half, there's just so many buzzwords around it. I'll just leave it at this, that the substance ultimately is going to exceed the hype. And when you have that perspective, the concept of worrying about inflation starts to fade away, and you focus on what companies. And to answer your question, where do you go below the fold here? It's companies like TSM, ASML. I think that Google and Meta are particularly well positioned given they actually own the underlying models. So that's where we're looking for kind of this next shift. But this undoubtedly is going to be the underpinnings of a bull market of the next 3 to 5 years.
So hyperscalers and hardware, are you thinking software at this point? Are you thinking about companies that will deploy AI for gains in their business that may be outside of technology?
So currently, most of our investments are not there, but I think that that's going to be this next wave, call it a year plus, kind of the 2 to 5 years. So eventually we'll get around to doing that. We invest in private and public companies, and so there are companies like Hugging Face, for example, that is on the model side. So there are other opportunities, I think, to invest in this wave that are not right down the middle with Nvidia.
They also just went through a stock split. We're going to get to a few videos on that in a minute and like explaining it about Nvidia's stock split, like 10 to 1 or whatever.
Gene, when you look at Blackwell, it's about 4 or 6 times faster than Hopper, and you wind up seeing their integration with their new chips being so much faster than the previous iteration of it. Do you think you're going to run into a scenario where people just sort of get paralyzed and they want to wait for the newer chip? We've seen that a little bit. Or do you think the bandwidth of AI currently, people don't need the latest and greatest, or there's a finite amount of companies like Amazon can consider doing whatever they're doing with Alexa, and others need the latest and greatest. Have you added that into your calculus for your companies?
Yes, absolutely. You're getting at the Osborne effect. This is that phenomenon of buyers waiting for the next kind of wave. And what surprised me related to last night's call is just the degree that Nvidia is going out to its customers and saying, we're going to upgrade these chips once a year. And once you set that expectation, the probability that you have some air pocket before next cycle declines. If they would upgrade the chips every 3 years, this would be, you'd see these big boom and bust. But I think they are training their customers. We're going to get new, faster chips every year. This is kind of Moore's Law type of improvements. And I think that does minimize. That was my big concern going into this quarter, was the Osborne effect didn't play out.
Gene, at what point with Nvidia do you think the growth will not warrant the chase? So, right now, it seems like they've put to rest any question that they're not going to grow EPS 30 to 40% over the next couple of years. Makes the stock really quite attractive right here. And at some point, there might be even a greater discounting mechanism for this stock based upon the move it's had and how important it's been. Any thoughts?
I think into calendar 26, this is going to be wide open. When I say wide open, right now the street's going to, after the revisions last night, is looking for almost 30% growth in calendar 25. I think they can grow 35% plus 25, 26. So this is bigger. It's not just hyperscalers. It's industrial AI. There's an application layer. There's sovereign nations. This is the things that Jensen talks about. And I believe that. And based on
grow 30%, that's a lot.
That NVIDIA still is not challenged. And I think that this growth story is going to continue.
Damn. What do you guys think? You guys invest in Nvidia? Let me know in the chat. All right, moving on over here. Again, we're going to get into the 10-to-1 stock split for Nvidia. What does it mean? Let's get over here. Yahoo Finance. Hit that like button, guys. Appreciate you for hanging out. Let's do it.
Let's get back to Nvidia, ticker symbol NVDA. Big earnings report that the company just wowed Wall Street with. Massive beat in its core data center business, revenue nearly tripling from a year ago. But perhaps one of the biggest pieces of news out of the report, a 10-for-1 stock split. Nvidia shareholders will get 10 shares for every 1 share of the company they currently own. Now, that goes into effect June 10th for people.
So that's June 10th. So it's actually pretty good, though, right? Because the dividends, if I'm not mistaken, will be higher, right?
Who own shares as of June 7th. So let's back up just a little bit here. Hold up, wait a minute. Can we put some stock split knowledge in it? And why did Nvidia decide to do one? Well, a stock split happens when a company divides up each share of its stock into a set amount of shares. So, for example here, if you own 1 share of Brad.ai, ticker symbol BRAD, worth $300, and then the company, run by moi, announces a 3-to-1 stock split that would leave you with 3 shares worth $100 a pop each.
Makes sense.
The market cap of Brad's company remains unchanged since the value of each investor's holdings, that remains the same. The big difference to the investor, you now own 3 shares instead of just 1. The company sets the day on which the split will happen, and at the close of the trading day, all investors holding the stock will have their shares converted. And then the stock starts trading again on this new split-adjusted basis, same ticker though. The next question is, why would a company do this? Why did Nvidia do this even? Well, doing a stock split increases the number of outstanding shares or shares owned, and thus increases the liquidity of a stock, making it easier for buyers and sellers to trade. Lowering the share price also makes it a little bit more accessible to investors. From our earlier example, Brad.ai shares were originally $300, but went through a 3-for-1 stock split, making each share worth $100. If you have today $100 max to spend on a stock, you can now afford 1 share of Brad.ai. You wouldn't have had enough money to buy the stock when it was at $300 a share, unless you're getting into fractional trading, and we won't go down that route. But anyway, overall, stock splits make ownership more accessible to a wider array of people. And Nvidia cited that exact reason for the split, saying it would make stock ownership more accessible to employees and investors.
Interesting. Going to continue that same thing.
Well, for much more on Nvidia being one of the most valuable companies by market cap in the world, but it uses a whole lot of jargon. To break down exactly what they're even talking about, we've got Yahoo Finance's very own Julie Hyman here. Hey, Julie.
Hey, Brad. Thank you. Indeed, what NVIDIA does is highly technical. And so even though CEO Jensen Huang, in my conversation with he and our Dan Howley last night, he does tend to explain things well, but still there are some terms that might confound you. So that's why I'm here to help. So first of all, there's the graphics processing unit. This is the bread and butter of what NVIDIA does. What is a graphics processing unit? It's a type of computer chip or semiconductor. Those terms used pretty much interchangeably. And it's capable of rendering graphics for display on an electronic device. Sounds pretty simple, right? GPUs are used for all kinds of stuff. They're used for video games. That's one of the first use cases and one of the bigger use cases in the past for NVIDIA's chips, for example. Not to be confused with CPUs, central processing units, which are mostly used in computers, for example. So CPUs versus GPUs.
That was a good point. Crypto Frank said, and it's a less volatile since it's 10x more stocks. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. It would definitely hold the volatility down.
The kind of
Real good
GPU
point.
now that NVIDIA is going to be introducing later this year.
And she might be wearing a robe, yes, I'm not sure.
It's called Blackwell. Now, Blackwell was introduced at NVIDIA's GTC conference this spring. And what is Blackwell exactly? Well, NVIDIA calls it the world's most powerful chip. And I am no tech expert, but from what I've gleaned about this Blackwell chip, it's actually two chips that are sort of connected, and it has 4 times as much speed as does Hopper, which is the generation of chip that is out from NVIDIA right now. So it's faster, has more compute power, and that's really the big selling point here. I should also mention Blackwell isn't just a chip sort of in isolation like the recent generations of NVIDIA's products. It's the chip on a rack that sits in a data center. So it's the rack itself that NVIDIA also sells, along with software to sort of run all of these chips together to help them compute, especially with generative AI. This Blackwell system also has a higher energy efficiency than its predecessors. So meaning when you're in a data center using an enormous amount of power, as we've talked frequently about, you want a chip that is going to be more energy efficient. And then finally, the other thing is in those data centers, it is hot, people. You are talking about chips, again, that are using an enormous amount of energy. There are different ways to cool those racks that sit in the data centers. You can cool them with air. You can actually cool them with water that runs on pipes through those racks. There are different ways. Some chips in the past could only be used with a specific type of cooling system. Blackwell is cooling system agnostic. So these are the various ways that it is different from past chips. I should also mention, it being a newer generation chip, it's also going to be more expensive. And then another term, or two terms you might have heard a lot about it when we're talking about generative AI specifically, is training versus inference. What are we talking about there? Well, training is when the AI model reviews a lot of different material, text, video, images, as it learns, what search results it's going to give you, whatever the task it's being given. And then inference is then when it actually starts to work. It is making inferences, it's making predictions, it's analyzing based on what it has learned. Now, some of the thinking going into this earnings report had been that NVIDIA's chips were very good for training, but they were maybe a little more than you needed for the inferencing part. Training is where you need more power. These are more expensive chips than some of their competitors. Jensen Huang sort of pushed back against that and said, indeed, NVIDIA chips are being used for inferencing. And here's what he told us last night.
Inferencing, as you know, is about generation of information, generative AI. And so whenever you're talking to ChatGPT and it's
Is this AI? Well, it doesn't match up.
generating information for you or drawing a picture for you or recognizing something and then drawing something for you, that generation is a brand new inferencing technology, is really, really complicated and requires a lot of performance.
And again, he emphasized that those NVIDIA chips are indeed being used for inferencing. We'll see how the whole landscape is going to look going forward, but just a few terms to get you started here, Brad.
I don't trust anything in AI anymore. It's getting crazy. Imagine being a kid growing up with AI. Insane. Like, literally insane. I remember the prepaid phones, man. I used to have to pay for minutes. Now you got like this supercomputer in your pocket, especially with AI. It's crazy. All right, gold set to reach $3,000 over the next 12 months. Let's see what they got to say over here on Bloomberg. Let's do it.
Can I ask you, Max, about FX markets and the dollar and the role of the dollar here? I was reading some research by Bloomberg Intelligence saying that platinum, copper, silver, these are the metals that have the strongest negative correlation in their view, or by, thanks to their analysis, to the dollar. What is your expectation there? Because that takes us into, FOMC, Fed expectations, what the dollar does. How much are you thinking about that?
What is this? $10,000 copper LME. What is this? What does that mean? Please, somebody let me know, because I don't know. $10,365. What is that?
Yeah, we're certainly thinking about that. The House view is quite out of consensus in terms of City Research's House view. We've got 5 Fed cuts this year, lower real rates into the end of the year, early next year. And that's certainly going to be, we think, the backbone of the next move higher in gold, right? So gold's probably the one that we think is most leveraged to that out of consensus view. We've got it going to $3,000 over the next 12 months.
So if oil lower, gold higher. 5 cuts and the market is only pricing in 1 right now. Yes. Where does that leave gold? And I was going to come on to talk to you about gold prices.
Oh, that was a London Metals Exchange. Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly would make us less bullish, but the underlying drivers of gold are very physical at the moment, so we feel like the support for these gold prices, obviously gold's broken the relationship with real rates of late, and that's been all about colossal Chinese retail demand. I mean, often...
Dude, hell yeah. Silver's over $30. Perfect. That's sick.
Charts. And China's, like, in my career, I've never seen China on the bid at the highs.
So before I got into crypto, I was real big into precious metals, like actual physical gold and silver versus, stocks and stuff, but... yeah, I would totally rather hold the physical gold and silver.
And the dollar notional that they're putting into gold is, we ballparked it, it's roughly 40 to 50% of what would have otherwise gone into property. It's a big shift from property spending into gold in retail in China. It mopped up about 2/3 of ex-China mine supply in the last 3-4 months. So, really absorbing all the mine supply, that plus the central bank demand, and there's nothing left for the jewelry market.
And just I know Christy's coming in, but does that change, that dynamic in China around gold? Does that change? Do you see anything that changes that?
Yeah, I mean, that is the biggest downside risk to gold for us, is that ultimately the government controls the quotas on the imports, and I mean, the imports aren't necessarily, the quotas aren't published, and they could dry up if the government becomes unhappy with the transfer of wealth from perhaps consumption and retail into physical gold.
So what's the way to invest in gold then right now? If I'm an investor looking at gold as potentially that central bank hedge or whatever your bull case might be, do you do it with the physical demand? Do you call your folks in Asia and say, let's stock up, or do you do it via the liquid ETF markets of the States? How do you access it? How do you get to it?
Sure. I mean, there's equities, ETF, the commodity.
Sure, but what's the most lucrative
Yeah, I mean, CFTC. I always worry about getting these questions because I can only answer on the commodity side. I'm not allowed to give a call on equities. Certainly not allowed to talk about ETFs. But look, on the commodity side, we've got. I mean, I would say overall the action in commodities has been almost 95 to 99% copper from a client activity perspective, from what I hear about and I see. It's not so much been in gold. I think there's a lot of room for gold. I mean, frankly, many people, including ourselves, were scratching our heads as to what the new drivers were, and now they've become clear that it's China. I think we're going to get a lot more interest in gold because people can kind of get their heads around it.
Amazing. All right, so there was somebody, I don't remember who it was, but somebody said we can probably go up to space and mine gold on an asteroid, but I can guarantee you never go up to space and mine Bitcoin on an asteroid, right? And the same thing goes for like diamonds. If you think about it, the diamond market now, they can actually create their own diamonds, like physical made lab diamonds that look exactly like a normal diamond. They just like high compression, bouncing around molecules, and they make diamonds. So like, I don't know, like precious metals and stuff is like, it's obviously going to have some sort of value, but just looking at the whole diamond thing, the devaluation is such a high probability that it really makes you nervous, right? That's kind of why I went more towards crypto versus the gold stuff. But anyways, all right, SEC opens the door for spot Ethereum ETFs. Get into some Ethereum news. Let's do it.
This is not a full approval. We want to make that clear. But
I know diamonds are not metal. I was just using an example.
what exactly has changed, and how is this possibly opening the door now?
Yeah, that's right, Annabelle. It's not a full approval. It is a very big step towards approval, though. There are basically two departments in the SEC that need to sign off on a new exchange-traded fund. One basically decides whether it meets the requirements for the stock exchanges to actually list the product. So New York Stock Exchange, ARCA Exchange, the NASDAQ, and CBOE have all applied to list these products. So that's what was approved today. That is one piece of the approval process. The other is the documents known as the S1s. Those are basically the registration documents of the prospectus for the funds that lay out exactly how they're going to invest the assets, who's going to take custody of the underlying assets, and all manner of sort of nitty-gritty details like that.
Yeah, real quick, they're not fake diamonds that they're making. It's not like cubic zirconians or whatever it's called. They're real diamonds. They're just making them in a lab, which is killing the market for actual like natural diamonds, right? Because I mean, you can just make them now. You don't gotta go dig them up. You know what I mean?
Approval comes from a different section of the SEC. They have not approved the S1s yet, so that is still to come. It's anyone's guess when and if that will happen. People, a lot of experts think a matter of weeks, perhaps. The approval of the other set of documents, though, to actually list these products on the exchanges does signal to many, though, that the other part of the SEC will eventually approve the prospectuses as well, which is really a pretty dramatic reversal in sentiment. As far as about a week ago, many of the ETF issuers we were talking to said, we don't think they're going to get approved because the SEC has not been very inquisitive and asking for changes to these applications or sort of testing some of the assumptions in the documents to basically give the issuers guidance on what they need to get approval. But it was a really sort of flurry of activity between the SEC and the ETF companies in this week so far that has led to these approvals tonight that we're talking about.
The other hot button topic is the removal of staking plans for these funds, right? Is this kind of seen as a short-term sort of downside or a net positive for the industry?
Well, it's a really interesting question. And for the industry, for the actual cryptocurrency industry, they are kind of happy that these funds will not be staking their tokens. And what does that mean? Well, Ethereum is a proof of stake blockchain. So what that means is if you're the equivalent of what you think of as a Bitcoin miner, they're called validators on Ethereum. What they do is they, quote unquote, stake some Ether to basically lock up on the blockchain to ensure that they sort of have skin in the game and that when they validate the transactions and help secure the blockchain, they're doing everything right. And if they don't do it right, then that staked Ether is taken away from them, or at least some of it. So the big question around staking is that these validators who do that earn rewards from the blockchain. So if you provide your Ether to be staked as part of this validation process, you earn a yield on it. It's roughly about 3 to 4%, I believe. So the SEC and the regulators, that raises the question, well, this looks a lot more like a security than, say, Bitcoin, where you do not earn a yield that way. So it's still not 100% clear what the SEC thinks of Ether as far as, is it a security, is it not a security? It is pretty clear that they do not want the ETF issuers who buy the Ether to actually stake the Ether.
Which makes sense. I get that, right? Staking in itself is for sure a security because you're expecting a dividend or yield at the end of it, right? So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a gray area. I really want to see if Gensler or whoever comes out and actually starts talking about this a bit. Rudputs, happy Friday. I forgot to message you back. Thank you. You know what? Every single Friday, Rudputs sends me, or is it Rudeputs or Rudputs? I feel like I'm saying it wrong, but he always sends me a happy Friday meme every single Friday, and I appreciate that a lot. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on to this ugly mug over here. I don't think he talks at all in this. I think it's just a random ass picture, but the SEC approval for spot Ethereum ETF gives retail investors comfort. Let's see what they got to say over here. CNBC television. Let's do it.
Well, now here we are. We're seeing the approval of Ether. Let's bring in Delta Blockchain Fund founder and general partner Kavita Gupta. It's great to see you here. You publicly said you did not think there was any way it would get SEC approval. What changed?
Absolutely. I think politics, it's an election year. Even if you would have asked me a week back,
Facts.
I would be like, I'm not sure this is happening.
I honestly think it's politics as well. The reason, the entire reason is because for what they don't want Trump in office. It's a fact, right? Him saying that he's now like the crypto guy, right? Somebody was probably like, all right, we got to get Biden on the train here because this is insane. And Biden, at the end of the day, the president runs the SEC, so he appoints that person. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would just like, guess what? Sorry, Gary, you're not in charge anymore.
I've actually gone completely on the record at CNBC and Bloomberg and said it's not going to happen this year. I think President Trump really going and putting himself as a pro-crypto candidate actually has changed a lot, and we cannot miss that.
They don't want him.
So they approved the spot Ether ETFs. Does this now, one, give approval to retail investors everywhere saying, hey, this is a safe investment, you can go ahead and do it, just because the SEC has allowed it? And two, does it open the door then for other crypto coins?
100%. I think I wouldn't be surprised if I see Solana and Near as the two next layer ones coming and actually apply.
What'd you say?
I wouldn't be surprised if I see Solana and Near as the two
Near? Like Near Protocol?
Two next layer ones coming and actually applying for ETFs. Because if Ethereum, based on the decentralization, the amount of technology which is getting built upon is actually goes through SEC and get.
Hold on. Sorry, I had to pause her. Near. Oh, I could pull this out. All right, Near. Let's just see. $7.71. Is this what she was talking about? I assume, right? I guess. It's fairly new though, isn't it? 2020, I guess. Interesting. Man, is this gonna be a sleeper? It's ranked 19th. Why have I not noticed it's ranked 19th? Does anybody have this? Anybody have Near? Let me know. This is why I watch this stuff, because I like to get coins that maybe have a good chance.
An ETF approval. It's equivalent. It's absolutely similar then.
If we look at Bitcoin, do you attribute that rise in Bitcoin's value to the formation of ETFs? Or is it because, again, that once you see an agency like the SEC come forward and say, okay, you can move forward as an ETF, that it changes the way the public thinks of it?
I think the retail customers for sure. We are talking about a country where, by the report in March 2024, 93 million Americans owns one or the other cryptocurrency. We already have Coinbase and Robinhood, the IPO company, providing it to retail for over 3 to 4 years. And then you have SEC, which has been questioning, starting from Ethereum to everything else. Like only 2 months back, we cannot forget that there has been Wells notice to both Coinbase and to Robinhood about indirectly asking whether ETH is a security or not. But now with SEC approving it, coming back to your question, I think it does give a lot of retail customers the comfort and big institutions.
Is there anything in your mind that retail investors should know? Is there anything that differentiates spot Ether ETFs from Bitcoin?
I think Ethereum is a technology platform, and a lot of things going to build. Think of Ethereum as Nvidia, think of Ethereum as OpenAI, Google stocks. Bitcoin is more of a currency. Think of Bitcoin more on the terms of how you use currency for an exchange, but here the whole world is using one currency.
And what do you think is the next currency then to be under consideration?
As I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Solana and Near are now vying for that ETH ETF. But liquidity is what I would like to quickly jump on, because what's very fascinating when you started this conversation, you talked about how the prices have been up for the year and weekly, but at the same time, as soon as the announcement came down, we didn't see a huge bump for ETH even to cross 4K and go to its all-time high. We are seeing the liquidity crunch, which is coming from the TradeFi market, which is coming from the global economy. And I think these elections, especially from September to November time, are going to be big trigger for that liquidity in the market.
Man, things are going to be absolutely insane. All right, let's move on to Crypto World CNBC television. Again, this was before the Ethereum ETF approval. So let's see what they got to say over here. And I think they talked to somebody about it a little bit. Galaxy Digital's Alex Thorne. So we're going to see what they got to say over here. Let's do it, guys. That like button. Let's try to get to 100 likes, please. Appreciate you.
Today, it's deadline day for a decision from the SEC on a spot Ether ETF. The House of Representatives passes a crypto market structure bill, marking the industry's most significant legislative accomplishment in Congress. And Alex Thorne, head of research at Galaxy, weighs in on the historic move from the House and the SEC's pivot on Ether ETFs. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Tanea McKeel. Major cryptocurrencies mixed this morning ahead of an expected decision from the SEC on spot Ether ETFs today.
As you guys know, it was approved.
Bitcoin fell nearly 3.5% to $68,000. Ether climbed more than 1%. And Solana, meantime, dropped nearly 5% to $172. Okay, let's talk about the two big stories we're watching today. The first ever crypto regulation bill passed in the House of Representatives yesterday, despite opposition from SEC Chairman Gary Gensler. While there was a strong showing from House Democrats who voted yes for the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act, the Biden administration put out a policy statement yesterday saying it opposes the legislation. Notably, though, the president did not say he'd veto the bill outright, a signal that he'd likely sign it if it makes it through Capitol Hill.
Awesome.
Congressman Patrick McHenry, who is the chairman of the Financial Services Committee, joined CNBC's Squawk Box this morning to discuss the House's passage of the crypto bill.
This should serve as a wake-up call. We had 2/3 of the House of Representatives vote in favor of clarity for crypto. It creates a legal framework giving the SEC a proper role and the CFTC a proper role, rather than the conflicting set of regulatory actions that those two agencies have taken over the last 10 years. Congress settles it. It settles the dispute. It settles what is a digital asset, gives a legal framework for trading and the purchase of those assets, and I think it's an important thing. This was a vote that included 71 Democrats across the ideological spectrum. That should be the wake-up call to the Senate. That should be the wake-up call to the administration, and in sound policy. So that's the message today, and the outcome of that vote yesterday is that the Senate needs to take action so we have legal clarity and so we can catch up to the rest of the world and be competitive in the world of digital assets.
Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong took to X to react to the passage, saying the development is a, quote, resounding win in the House for clear crypto rules, and that sensible regulation of crypto just took a big step forward. The other big story we're watching is the impending decision from the SEC on spot Ether ETFs. Today is the deadline for the SEC to answer VanEck's application for an exchange-traded product that would track the price of Ether directly. And while the SEC finally approved spot Bitcoin ETFs at the start of this year, most experts thought the approval of an Ether-linked product was a long shot, but that all changed this week. A few days ago, we got reports that the agency might be changing its tune and was working with applicants on polishing their proposals, although the agency declined to comment to CNBC about individual filings. We also saw amended filings from most of the asset managers to remove staking from these ETFs, reportedly in the hopes of appeasing the agency. The momentum in favor of approval only picked up throughout the week as 5 members of Congress sent a letter to SEC Chair Gensler. In it, they urged him to approve the proposals in line with the approval of Bitcoin ETFs earlier this year. And to that point, even Gensler himself reportedly said the agency had to pivot in its thinking around spot crypto ETFs after the Grayscale court ruling last year. All right, to talk about both of these big headlines, I caught up with Alex Thorne, head of research at Galaxy Digital. He weighs in on the House's passing of a crypto market structure bill, and he discusses why the SEC has seemingly changed its tune on Ether ETFs ahead of a decision. So it's been a big week news-wise for crypto, and it seems like there is this shift in the political tide for crypto. Aside from the ETH ETFs, that seems to really be the big story for the week. And I am wondering if you can just catch me up to start on what has changed and where we are now.
Yeah, hey, Tanaya, thanks for having me. I think it is a big...
Real quick, Max Voltage in the chat said, watch today. Will the president veto the SAB 121 repeal today? Time is running out. Interesting.
Big week. There is a shift that has clearly occurred. I think actually the Ethereum ETF story may be part of that bigger political shift that's happening. Let's take it back. 2 weeks ago, the House passed this bill that would overturn SEC Staff Accounting Bulletin 121, and it had 21 Democrats that voted in the House. And then that went to the Senate last week, and the Senate passed it 60-38 or so, with 12 Democrat caucusing members, so 11 Democrats and 1 independent, also voting to overturn, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. So that sent a very strong message. This was not 21 Democrats in the House, that's not that many, but with the Majority Leader and 12 Democrats voting in the Senate, in the face of what was an explicit White House veto threat, that sent a pretty strong message. And I would say it's interesting too, because that SAB 121 thing is a relatively arcane accounting thing that caused banks problems with custodying crypto. What we're seeing now with this new bill that passed the House Fit 21, which we'll talk about, I know, much more sweeping, consequential thing. But so you had those votes in the face of the White House veto threat. So some defections from the Democratic side voting for this pro-crypto legislation. You also had former President Donald Trump explicitly saying, if you like crypto, you should vote Trump. Now his campaign is accepting cryptocurrency donations and, again, explicitly calling out Senator Elizabeth Warren and saying that she may have been raising a, quote, anti-crypto army. Well, we're raising a crypto army. So it's become a political issue at the presidential race now. And you also had a Harris poll that was commissioned by the Blockchain Association and Digital Currency Group also 2 weeks ago that showed 20% of voters in swing states consider cryptocurrency to be a significant issue in the election. You've got several large crypto PACs that are pouring money into a lot of these elections. And then, of course, abruptly now you had, I think it was abrupt, you have the Ethereum ETFs apparently about to perhaps launch and after months of radio silence. Yet. So it seems like a lot of things sort of happening at once. Now, 71 Democrats now voting for this Fit 21 bill. That's a significant defection. The White House didn't threaten to veto that. So it seems like the political strategy from the Democratic leadership is changing. And that has, I think, all of the cryptocurrency world feeling more politically engaged and effective than really ever before.
I think that's why like this cycle could literally be a super cycle. Just the amount of things going on and how positive crypto as a whole is for the election itself is going to be just unreal. Like we could see gains that we've never seen before. So this could, like, you guys are still early. This could be the last major pump that we're going to have with all of these catalysts here, right? Not saying we're not going to have bull runs again, but this is probably the last like life-changing event for the bigger cryptocurrencies anyways.
Let's go back to the ETH ETF that you just mentioned. We are all waiting on the first decision by the SEC, who has the first decision deadline coming up for one of the ETH ETFs. And like you said, I think it was abrupt. The consensus broadly was that this was not likely to be approved, and now that has completely flipped. So, and as you also sort of alluded, I think that this is part of the broader political story. So there is a lot of speculation in the market right now based on what we do know. Why might that be that we had that abrupt, change in cadence from the SEC and the potential ETF issuers? Why might that be? And how do you think that this fits into the broader broader story?
Yeah, it's hard to know the specifics of the SEC's thinking on this, but we can definitely confirm, from our end and talking to the issuers, really nobody thought this was going to happen. There had been no back and forth with the issuers on their S1 filings. If you recall from last fall, there was months of back and forth, many amendments filed, and comments sent back and forth between the issuers and the ETFs. Right, that took several months. That was like October, November, December. And none of that had been happening. So, the question, I think, was totally reasonable to expect them to be denied. If you couple that with the SEC's various enforcements and litigations and arguments they've been making, and Wells notices supposedly sent to Uniswap and Consensus and their case against Coinbase, and in a variety of these statements, it seemed that the commission was very hostile to Ethereum and perhaps was even preparing to call Ethereum itself a security, an unregistered security. They never actually have made that case, by the way. They were, Chair Gensler was criticized by Pat McHenry, the chair of the House Financial Services Committee, for refusing to say whether or not Ethereum was a security, right? But they never actually They haven't argued themselves in court cases that it is, but there was this prevailing view that the SEC was hostile to Ethereum, and that coupled with the lack of engagement with issuers is why no one really expected these to happen right now. So then, I mean, what caused the shift? I mean, there was Bloomberg and others and CNBC all reported on Monday that now the SEC frantically reached out to issuers and said, actually get us back these comments like in a day. And so that's the type of behavior that suggests that they're planning now to approve at least this first sort of piece of it, this 19B4 filing, which is the exchanges asking for permission to list the products. Like any public company, ETFs have to have a registration statement go effective. Those are the S1. So those will probably take a little longer. So I don't think we're going to see an Ethereum ETF launch like tomorrow or next week and actually become tradable on an exchange. But there's a debate about how, assuming that if they pass the 19B4s or approve them, which we expect will happen today on Thursday,
which they did,
then it's pretty inevitable, we think, that they do eventually start trading. And there's some debate about how long that might be. I mean, I've heard between 2 weeks and 2 months it could take. It's not clear exactly.
That's crazy.
Because we haven't seen any back and forth between the issuers.
Let's talk about Fit 21. So break down the significance of this bill for me. This is the one that was passed last night in the House, and many are hailing as a huge victory for crypto. It's, of course, the one that specifies when crypto falls under the purview of the SEC versus the CFTC. So explain the significance for me, and then talk about next steps and where do we go from here. This is a significant win. When and how does the industry advance from last night?
Yeah, the Fit 21 Act is a very powerful and consequential piece of legislation. It frankly is a sweeping overhaul and reform of how crypto is regulated. Crypto capital markets particularly are regulated in the US, and it provides significant clarity on a number of issues. It is a very long bill with a lot of stuff in it. I think ranging from rules for token issuers on disclosures and investors on disclosures, rules for brokers and exchanges on safety and commingling of assets, and a whole bunch of stuff. And when as an issuer or exchange type business, you would be regulated by the SEC or the CFTC, whereas now it's like, to be honest, neither are really regulating as much, right? I mean, it's most crypto exchanges operate with money transmission licenses, and the SEC currently says that they're all national securities exchanges because almost all cryptos are crypto asset securities, according to the SEC. This bill would very much clear that out and explain when it is a security, when it's not a commodity. That's clarity that we should have in this country. You have it in other jurisdictions like Europe and Hong Kong and Singapore. They've already done that stuff, right? So we as a country, if we want to maintain our lead in financial innovation in general, should have clarity here so that businesses and investors can both operate safely and with clarity and have some certainty about what the rules really are, rather than sort of a regulation by enforcement or even regulatory winds that shift with each administration, right? It would be nice to have this codified in law. So from a policy standpoint, broadly speaking, this or something like it, I think is very positive for crypto, for investors, for users, for companies in the US. Now, this bill specifically, it's a giant piece of legislation, right? Whether it all gets through or whether everything in it is good or bad, it's tough to say, right? But I would say we're broadly supportive of efforts to do this type of stuff. And the House Financial Services and Agriculture Committees have done so much work on this. There's lots of good stuff in there. I think politically, it's very consequential. It's and it's think about this, with 71 Democrats, including former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, voting in favor of this bill. This is a strong signal that this is truly a bipartisan issue, or at least the Democrats don't want to cede it entirely to the Republicans. And this is, Donald Trump is raising money on crypto right now. They're putting out statements saying that they want the crypto army, right? So the Democrats appear not willing to cede that ground, which I think is very positive for the industry that they're not willing to. We don't believe that cryptocurrency is a partisan issue, and certainly don't believe that it should be. We think that it helps people. It gives financial independence and sovereignty. It's an upgrade to the financial system in general. Bitcoin is an upgrade to the way money works. And that shouldn't be about one political party or another. Now, whether it's going to pass into law is a much more difficult question. I think the Senate is unlikely to take this bill up at all. I think instead what you'll see, if there is action that happens this year, is efforts that have already been worked on in the Senate, such as the Lomas-Gillibrand proposals, will sort of be rekindled, and they're similar. It's the same types of ideas, right? And then maybe the Senate would pass something that they have put their own touch on, and then there's a giant reconciliation process. I'd be surprised if we actually see that happen this year. You have to recall that Congress is about to go on vacation for a lot of the summer, and when they get back, it's going to be the height of campaign season, right? And there's really not that much time left in the legislative calendar. It takes a lot of floor time to move any bill through the Senate. There's going to be things that they have to pass, budget related items and whatnot. So there's really not a lot of time here. So I'd be surprised if this Fit 21 or something like it actually becomes law this year. But I would say, like I said, the politics of this are what is most interesting. It does portend a sweeping change, and I think Democratic leadership approach to this industry.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be
All
back.
right, shout out to CNBC Crypto World. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe we'll get into videos. We'll watch a little bit of Altcoin Daily's video. I'm not going to let him start talking about coins, though. We'll just listen to the news stuff until he starts getting into like real deep coins. Probably halfway through, like 5 minutes in. All right, let's do it. Appreciate you guys hanging out.
First ever major crypto bill has passed in the House of Representatives.
In general, what this has done is change the landscape for crypto, particularly politically in this country.
The United States of America is now endorsing the cryptocurrency industry. This is hard for people to believe who don't follow the market every day like we do, but from Donald Trump to fair regulations passed to the Ethereum Etf, this is how it happened.
In beginning of May, Trump was asked a question about crypto, and he said, if you want crypto, vote for Trump.
I'm fine with it. I want to make sure it's good and solid and everything else, but I'm good with it. If you like crypto in any form, if you're in favor of crypto, you better vote for Trump.
That clip went viral and actually changed things in Washington. We saw multiple votes over the last several days that were pro-crypto.
We had 2/3 of the House of Representatives vote in favor of clarity for crypto. It creates a legal framework, giving the SEC a proper role and the CFTC a proper role. It settles what is a digital asset, gives a legal framework for trading and the purchase of those assets, and I think that's an important thing.
The president said he was going to veto those and then kind of backed off. So I think there's been a sea change here in the regulatory environment, and it's a welcome one from the industry.
So, Bitcoin is looking great. Finite supply plus growing demand equals rocket ship. Ethereum is looking great. Think of it this way, when the Bitcoin ETF was approved, 9 million was added to Bitcoin's market cap. If Ethereum gets even just 1/5 of that added, Ethereum would trade at $11,000 per coin. You're not bullish enough. Plus, now BlackRock is selling it.
The reason for the call today, John, is something just came across my desk, John. It is perhaps the best thing I've seen in the last 6 months. If you have 60...
This is the best movie. Rud Puts. Thank you so much for the €249. Don't go on vacation. The miners will crash. Thank you so much, buddy.
Seconds, I'd like to share the idea.
So besides Bitcoin and Ethereum, what else is there? Just like end of 2020, beginning of 2021, there's a lot of opportunity in altcoins right now. Looks like we're gearing up for a massive alt season. Now even the mainstream media is asking what else is viable to invest in cryptocurrency.
The trade now is who's next?
Who is next, though?
I mean, I think you've got to think about Solana as probably the next one, right? I mean, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana are probably the big three for this cycle.
Aside from Solana, what is your number one sort of moonshot coin trade?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think you can look at a couple different ones.
Look, I like CNBC, but let's be honest here. They don't know everything going on in crypto. That's why you subscribe to us. So let's go through my...
Nope, let's not. All right. Anyways, let's get into recap segment of things. Sorry, I don't want to... if you guys want to watch this, the link is in the description. I just don't want to chill coins that I don't really care about. And then he talks about some... I actually skimmed through to see, and there was like some promoted coins in there, and it's just, yeah, it's not really genuine, so I'm not going to do that. All right, anyways, Bitcoin 67,341. Let's see, we have Ethereum at 37.15, Solana's at $166, XRP is at 53 cents if anybody's just joining. looking pretty good. Having a bit of a pullback over here on Caspa. Man, it was at 14 cents yesterday. It's at 13 now. 5.54% down today. Litecoin is also down $85 right now. Let's see. ETC is still doing pretty well. It's over 30 bucks, which is pretty good. Let's see. Link is doing very well today. So is Lido. Interesting. Some meme coins are doing okay as of right now. Flashbang quick. 74 on the Fear and Greed Index for anybody that is just joining, in case you didn't see it. You know what? I totally forgot to check CPUs. Obviously, Zephyr is still on the top of the charts here. I kind of want to see what Zephyr's looking like real quick before we get out of here. I do have to get back to daddy duty. These kids are driving me nuts. Keep running down here. All right, let's see. So Zephyr, what do you guys think about this coin? Is this thing gonna last or not? It's only got an $18 million market cap, which is, I say only, it's a lot, but like, I don't know. This thing being at 50 bucks, now it's down to 479. Do you guys think it's gonna take off again or what? Let me know. Yeah, Casp was a long-term play for me as well, to be honest. Mining Zeph off my old ETC MC. Really? Can I mine Zephyrus off these things? I wonder if I can. These things have doesn't tell me. I forget. I think they have 4 cores, 4 threads, if I'm not mistaken. Man, that'd be sick. Imagine if I could mine Zephyrus on these. That'd be dope. I don't know if I can though. Damn it, now I have a new project, something I didn't need to get into. I don't, you know what though? I'm just not a fan of it. I don't know why. Something about it freaks me out. Weirds me out, the whole privacy thing. Like XMR, nothing's gonna replace XMR. XMR is the OG. That's what it is. It's just Zephyr to me is not going to take its place. This is the original privacy coin. If you want privacy, this is the coin to get into. And I think this one's probably going to do a decent run as well. But it is dwindling, right? I mean, what's all-time high actually? It's down 74%. Man, $542. XMR was at $542. Jesus. That was in 2017. Holy shit. That's crazy. Man, what do you guys think? At least the 2x XRP probably. All right, make a new video. You might not be a fan, but people out in YouTube might. Yeah, you know what? If I can mine on these things, why not? Yeah, because that ETC MC, man, I wish I didn't make that video, and I didn't get paid to make that either. I just made it because it was profitable, and then it just completely turned into a Ponzi scheme. It's 2 cents as of right now. Look at this, fighting for a heartbeat. I made the video like right around here ish, and then it skyrocketed to whatever. It wasn't because of my video either. It just, I don't know. It's weird. It was on its way up and it was profitable, and then I made the video, and like 2 weeks later it was like, see ya, and it just completely died, fell off a cliff. Insane. I missed the CPU mining wall. I know Red Panda robbed me. He is actually supposed to send me another KS0 and he never did. Bastard. No, it's all good. Yeah, this coin's a freaking Ponzi scheme. That's my opinion on it, to be honest. Solana I think is gonna do well. I don't know, we're gonna have to see what happens, but anyways guys, listen, love you all. You're all fantastic. Hopefully you guys have a safe and happy Friday. It is Friday. I do need to leave you guys off with this, but we're gonna go raid Miss Randy Hipper right after it, so please stay tuned, stay put, and I will send you guys right over there. And until next time, I'll catch you guys, actually not tomorrow morning. I think I'm gonna catch you guys Saturday night. And until then, peace. Let's do it.
I wanna hold on till I can't no more.
Eat shit, Gary. You are a loser. You always lose.
Perfect.
Appreciate you guys for hanging out with me this morning. Have a safe, happy Friday. Don't spend all of your money in one place. If you do, buy Bitcoin.